Somewhere between reality and imagination lies the realm of the paranormal. A place filled with spirits, magic, and the unexplained. Come with us on our journey to discover if the stories are true or if they are all just smoke and mirrors.
Welcome to Smoke and Mirrors, the podcast that dives deep into cases of the paranormal, the unusual, and the unexplained to separate the facts from the fiction. I'm your host, Darrell.
And I'm Cindy. And today we're going to be discussing our plans for the podcast in 2018. And then we will be joined by Chris from the Couch Potato Files to discuss the recent developments in the UFO community and disclosure from the U.S. government.
But before we get into that, we want to let you know about a giveaway we're doing for the month of January. All you have to do is go to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review, and you'll be automatically entered into the drawing for an official Smoke and Mirrors t-shirt.
It's as simple as that. Takes about 2 minutes of your time, but it would mean the world to us, and it also gets you entered for some sweet, sweet swag.
Swag! All right. So what are some of the subjects you want to talk about or things you want to do for the show in 2018?
Well, I definitely want to talk about the whole UFO thing. And I think we kind of tentatively planned on stopping in Roswell on our way to Phoenix this summer. So,
yeah, that'll be an interesting little stop that we take there.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Now, you were just contacted by a listener the other day, right?
Yes, one of my friends messaged me and asked me if we had any equipment to use to investigate, and she said that she had quite a few things happening at her house, so I definitely want to at some point get her on the show and interview her, and she said we could come over sometime and kind of do an investigation and maybe record a little bit, so that'll be neat.
Now, I don't want to give too much away, but she said there's been some strange things happening in her house and said that I guess they've seen some shadow people and a couple of other things.
Yeah. She said there's all kinds of stuff going on in the house. Stuff happens every single day. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. Now, a couple of other things that I think we want to do this year on the show. One, for me, is to get more people on to interview. I'd like to discuss black-eyed children and some of the other more recent phenomenons that seem to have occurred since really the internet has become a big thing, and try to figure out if this is something that's real or if it's something that's just, kind of an urban legend that's been propagated by people on the internet. And another thing that I want to do is there are a couple of hotels here in Kentucky that are close, that are rated some of the most haunted hotels in the country. I'd like to go stay there, and talk to the people that own it and just kind of give our view on whether or not we think the places are haunted or whether it's just hype to get people to come and stay.
Yeah, as soon as I mentioned that to you, that we should go stay at one of those hotels, I immediately regretted it because now I'm super scared.
Well, I know previously I've been to, I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's the one that was owned by the guys who ran Taps. And it was
I liked that show.
Up in New Hampshire. And honestly, there was nothing to it. I mean, I stayed in the room that was supposed to be the most haunted room in the whole place, and nothing happened. Stayed there for 3 nights. I slept like a baby the entire time. It just, they were like saying things about how stuff slides off this one chest of drawers, and it was because the floor was unlevel. And so when you would walk, the whole set of drawers would shake when you walked through the room. And so I'm going to be a big debunker on everything we go to.
Well, I'm going to be a big chicken, so that'll work out nicely. Also, we want to go to Adams, Tennessee, which is close to where we live, which is where the Bell Witch lived.
Yeah, and that's only about 30 minutes from where we live, and I think that'll be interesting to go down there. I know they have a cave in the area where the house was, and it'll be an interesting tour if nothing else. Again, skeptical about whether anything really is going to occur there. I know a lot of people go there and take pictures and say that they see orbs, but I mean, it's dust, you know, a lot of dust particles floating around in the air there, but it should be an interesting tour. And hopefully when we go there, we're able to separate out some of the fiction from what's really going on.
And I still want to have a reading done. I know that there's a couple of conventions coming up in Nashville I was thinking about checking out. So if anybody knows anybody that would be willing to come on and do a reading for me, or if you yourself, whoever you are, would be willing to come on and do one, let us know.
Yeah, you can email us at smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com and let us know, and we'll be happy to have you on the show. Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to do this year was try to hit up some of the conventions. And there's actually one little small, it's not a convention, it's more like a party. I think after I heard about an incident that occurred in Kentucky that's really close to where we live, and I think that should be a fun one to go to and check out. It's where some people shot at what they thought were aliens, and it turned out that it was really more likely it was owls that were protecting their nest because these guys were pretty drunk when they were out there shooting at them.
That's drunk redneckery at its finest.
Yeah, it is. And I believe I think it's Kelly, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So that ought to be fun to do that. And I'd like to go and check out a couple more paranormal conventions, possibly one on aliens. I think it'd be a good place to go and network with folks and find some really interesting people to have on the show and interview.
I think we have a lot of really neat plans for this year. So I'm looking forward to getting in and start doing some of those. That'll be fun. Kind of scary, but still fun.
Yeah, so stay tuned for 2018. All right, so let's move into our interview with Chris. Our guest today is the host of one of my favorite podcasts, The Couch Potato Files. Welcome to the show, Chris, a.k.a. Chris the Mole Man.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Not too bad. You freezing your butt out there? Or?
Yeah, it's been cold for the last few days. I think we got up in the 40s today, and it's supposed to be up to 60, I think, here in a couple of days. So it's all good.
Yeah, we were 86 yesterday. It was nice. We've had record-breaking heat, and everybody else is freezing.
How do you do it being a ginger out there in the middle of the desert?
It's not too bad. I just a lot of sunscreen.
Yeah.
I love the heat. I'm like a lizard. It's just the cold. I cannot stand to be cold. I don't know if it's just like, I don't know, like I'm like have that sensory deprivation or whatever. I don't know, wherever they call it, where, you know, some kids don't like the sticky glue on their fingers. I think I'm same way with cold, because I just can't stand it cold. I think it's below 60. I start getting pissy.
So we just figured out that you're actually a hybrid lizard man.
I have to be. I kind of wonder sometimes.
Why don't you let our listeners know a little bit about your podcast?
Well, it's called Couch Potato Files, and we talk about anything to do with UFOs, Bigfoot, unexplained phenomenon. I get into some weird history and serial killers and that stuff too. So it's all the fun stuff, all the stuff I'm interested in. And sometimes I'm a little goofy and cynical about stuff, and there's other times that I'm, I try to take it somewhat seriously, I guess.
Yeah. So tonight, what I want to talk about is the U.S. government coming out and saying that there may be UFOs. They never said anything for sure, because they're never going to come out and exactly say, this is what's going on. We know for sure this is what's going on. But the fact that they actually said these may exist was like a huge step for the UFO community.
And I don't know, like personally, I've like always been interested in UFOs. I mean, I have my theories that that's how we came here, but I don't know. I wasn't really too surprised about it. I assumed they've been studying this or trying to study this. So it wasn't like, I don't know. People were thinking, "Oh my God, this is such a big deal." And I was just kind of like, "Well, it's okay." So they're studying it, or they said they've been studying it, but it's like they really didn't really say anything about it. Even the whole term UFO is just unidentified flying object. I mean, that could be anything from a plane you don't know about to maybe something from outer space to like, I don't know, like a cow turd or something, It's like it's a vague term. It's kind of like the check engine lights on,
Yeah, exactly. Now, what surprised me earlier today, I put a poll out on Twitter and asked the question, do you believe that we've been visited by extraterrestrials? And I didn't expect the poll to go the way that it did, but about 72 to 73% of people who voted, and that was out of about 200 votes, said, yes, I believe extraterrestrials have been here to visit.
Which I guess I can kind of see. I mean, especially since this just happened. You know? I've always thought they've been here before. I don't think it's as much as, probably for every UFO sighting that is reported, I'm going to say maybe 10, 20% maybe is actually possibly something from out of this world. The rest of it is just, misidentification. It's kind of like the whole Bigfoot thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how much is it misidentification? I have no doubt, plausibly, there could be something out there lurking around, but it could be a three-legged bear. It could be a bear standing up. It could be a deer. You're just, can't see great. I don't know. It's hard for me to say since I've never seen one.
Yeah. And honestly, I believe that there's life in the universe, other life in the universe. I have a hard time believing that they've come to visit. But just in case you don't know what we're talking about here, a couple of weeks ago, the New York Times released an article that said that the U.S. government has been running a secret black budget funded operation to study UFOs. Now, the Department of Defense, along with the support of Senator Harry Reid, launched this program in 2007 to research the UFO phenomenon, collect materials, and study the effects of UFO on people who claim to have encounters. I honestly was surprised about this just because, they denied it for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And I honestly believed that they would release certain things because always when they release something, you would have like 3/4 of a page blacked out.
Yeah.
So you'd never actually see anything. And it made me wonder if the situation was kind of like in the episode of X-Files where the guy said that he makes all this stuff up while he's sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
Just to give out false information. So it kind of blew me away when they came out and said, here's what we've been doing.
And I think for me, like one, it was weird to me that the New York Times ran with this story because the New York Times usually makes fun of this stuff.
Yeah.
And all of media pretty much makes fun of UFO and UFOlogy and all this other stuff. And it's like, no scientists could really study this seriously without getting mocked or pretty much fired. It was just strange to me that all of a sudden, why all of a sudden now, why did we and that's what kind of makes me curious about even the federal government. Why now? Why all of a sudden now? Why didn't you do it like years ago? Like you just feel that we're ready for this or, this was kind of like a soft disclosure, I guess you would say, that really didn't say anything. They just said, well, we don't know what this is. And there's nothing that we have in our arsenal or anybody else's arsenal that we know of that can move like this. So it's like, what are you gearing us up for? Like, what is coming down the road? Because I know Tom DeLonge said there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up here pretty soon, but it's kind of like the skeptical side of me is like, the the side that really doesn't trust government. It's like, what are you doing here? You know, what's your game plan?
Yeah, and that's what makes me wonder as well. Okay, so I want to play a couple of clips from Ralph Blumenthal, who was the co-writer of that Times article. And he was recently interviewed on NBC. And this is what he had to say about the program.
It was $22 million total, which is really a drop in the bucket of the Pentagon budget. But it went for research into these objects, and no one knows what they are to this day, that have been seen by Navy planes. They've engaged with them. They've been reported by witnesses. But beyond that, we really don't know much. And the research went into trying to identify their strange means of propulsion, their phenomenal aerodynamics, which represent nothing on the face of this earth by any country. And the research, even though the program was officially ran out of money in 2012, it really has continued, we found out.
See, now that last thing that he said there, that's what to me was maybe the most important statement in the whole thing, was that even though they say that the program has been shut down and they're not spending any more money on it, he knows for a fact that they're still doing it.
Yeah, which is kind of, I guess, shady. But
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, like, was this going on before? I mean, there's, like he said, $22 million is just a drop in the bucket, which it is to the defense.
Yeah.
And I can't remember last audit how much money was they couldn't claim for. It was like in the trillions. So it's like, how much other stuff are they doing that are like deep underground? Like, not to sound like one of the weird conspiracy theorists, but I mean, honestly, how do you lose that much money, especially somebody that's quote unquote in charge of defense and researching and building all this stuff? I mean, what stuff's out there that no one knows about, like including the president and Congress and us, the American people? It's just kind of weird, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, we know, and we've known for a long time, that there is what's called the black budget, which is the money that's being spent that's not appropriated by Senate or Congress. It's just given to them, you know, to do what they have to do with, but there's no oversight. And so I've always wondered what's going on, what's being built that we have absolutely no clue about. And we know for a fact that the president of the United States doesn't get updated on everything that occurs or everything that's being built, because he's on a need to know basis. And if someone somewhere decides he doesn't need to know, then he's not going to find out about it.
And I guess it would kind of make sense if they're building something. I mean, if you really look at it, he's a temporary employee, and the longest he's going to be in office is 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So why really tell a guy that's been here for 8 years that we haven't, like, let's just go back to the nuclear bomb era. Why would we tell somebody that's only going to be here for 8 years that we have this bomb and it's not even ready to go? I mean, like, I understand like some of the logistics. I just think it's kind of shady of what are they up to kind of a deal, you know? It's like, how long did they say that there's no Area 51? Not that I think anything's at Area 51. It was just cover up.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's there. I mean, you could see it on satellites. If you go driving out there, you get close to the little signs or whatever, they care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to be out there on you in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
And then now, you know, a lot of UFO researchers have shifted their focus to what they call Area 52, which, again, is like Area 51, where they're doing a bunch of R&D. And they may have things out there that no one has any idea about. And it kind of makes me laugh sometimes when I hear some of these guys talk about it. And I've seen like shows where some of the UFO theorists say that the stealth fighter had to be reverse engineered from alien technology. And I know for a fact that's not true, because the guy who developed the wings and actually invented the wings for the stealth fighter teaches at the university that I graduated from. and he's a pompous ass about it. He lets people know, you see that? That's mine. I made that. And so it always makes me chuckle whenever I hear someone say that. It kind of goes back to like the whole Elvis is still alive thing.
Yeah.
That always makes me laugh because my ex-father-in-law was one of the doctors in the ER when they wheeled him in on the meat wagon. And there's no doubt he's dead. So
yeah, I don't know. I think like the self bomber and stuff, I think people just think that we're not bright enough that we can't figure this out on our own. I mean, we've had a huge tech boom. I mean, think about what cell phones were like 10 years ago or even 20 years ago.
exactly.
And people are like, oh my God, they're just moving so fast. Well, no, you came out with a product. There's tons of people. There's tons of smart people out there like Elon Musk that just sits there and thinks about stuff. I don't know. How did he even come up with half this stuff? I don't know. Maybe he is an alien or something. But I mean, there's smart people out there. There's engineers. I mean, engineer brain thinks a whole lot different from everybody else. You know, like my uncle's an engineer, and he looks at things just totally a different way.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have a product, you can improve on a product. And it's just, I think all that stuff is just, it's all just conspiracy theories. It's just hogwash. I mean, you're trying to say that we're not that bright to come up with this stuff. I'm like,
Exactly.
I mean, to anything that would possibly come here, yeah, we're probably not considered that bright. You know, I kind of wonder sometimes if they have been here, maybe they're filming for their like reality show back whatever planet they're from, and they just laugh at us because, I mean, we probably look pretty downright foolish, especially like all the stupid stuff that we fight about country wise, and certain presidents talking about how big their button is on the desk for bombs and stuff. And it's just like, okay, come on, grow up, guys. You know, I thought it was funny, but it's like, grow up.
Yeah. Now, I want to loop back to this same interview that I just pulled the clip from, because one of the things that came out on the same day was that the Department of Defense had actually collected material that they don't know what it is. And it's kind of weird to me to even think about that. But again, when questioned, Ralph Blumenthal had this to say about it.
They have confirmed, in effect, for the first time that these things exist according to what the program said, that they have established a kind of reality to these objects that didn't exist before, that the government was standing behind, or at least this unit of the Pentagon. They have, as we reported in the paper, some material from these objects that is being studied so that scientists can try to figure out what accounts for their amazing properties, this technology, these objects, whatever they are. So they have made some progress.
What type of material?
They don't know. They're studying it, but it's some kind of compound that they don't recognize.
Now, that kind of speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wonder if that's maybe something being used to throw people off, because I have a hard time believing that there's a compound that we can't identify. You figure the first thing they're going to do is run it through a mass spectrometer, and that's going to tell you what's in the compound. Now, if something came up that they've never seen, that's huge news.
And my thought too is, why would you disclose that? You don't know what it is, but you say it's okay for this stuff to be released. I mean, this stuff wasn't like leaked. It was the Fed said, okay, you know, let it go.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did they get the stuff? I mean, do you know? Because I was trying to look it up, you know, in between fighting with my kids and everything. And I really couldn't understand, like, where did this material come from?
Yeah, and they never explained that.
It's like, was this like the Roswell crash, or was this just like, you know, last Tuesday? Where did you get this? Was it just hanging out somewhere? I don't know where did this material come from. They said they don't know what it is, but they never really said how they obtained it, unless I missed it.
No, and I never heard how they obtained it either. But if you go back and listen to some of the Roswell stories, I guess one of the children of the guy whose father had some of this material claims that it was like nothing he had ever seen before.
Yeah.
that you could crumple it up, and it was like memory metal. It would go back to the shape that it originally was. So I don't know. I wonder if that was put out there to perpetuate the myth, or if they actually have something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard telling. I know a lot of people are excited for this, but that's where I hate poo-poo and I know what's going on. It's like, what is really going on,
Yeah.
That's where my kind of cynical side kind of takes over. What's the end means here?
And I'm the same way. As much as I'd like to believe them, there's always that little part of me that's completely skeptical about the whole thing. Even if it is officials coming out and saying, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you read that article that I posted the other day from Scientific America.
I'm trying to think which one was that one.
It was the one where the scientist came out and said they think that all of this is a bunch of bunk.
Yeah, I think I glossed through it a little bit.
And one of the arguments they made was the same argument that I was making earlier, which was, how can there be a compound that they don't know what it is? Even if it's an odd version of a compound, say you have carbon and add electrons to it and change the atomic weight, and it becomes a different element, but still the same. It basically causes it to become radioactive.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
And to me, if they're saying they have this metal, whatever it is, all right, so let's just say it did come from outer space, all right? But how did you get it?
Yeah.
Like, was it left behind? I mean, did they open up the dump and, like the 747s and let out the pee or what? I'm like, that's, when they did this, it was kind of like watching, what's his name? M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And it's like you get to the end of some of his movies. It's like, dude, come on. What, you just left me hanging, It's or like an Alfred Hitchcock, I guess, it's just like, what's going, like, there's more questions than just there's answered.
Yeah.
It's just not, I don't know. That's why I didn't get like super stoked about it. Not, I assume the government's been investigating this for years. Why not? I mean, tons of people have been reporting odd phenomenon in the sky. I mean, why not look into it? Because who knows?
Well, and that they're going to investigate it because the main objective is to make sure that it's not a threat. And so just to kind of prove that point, on the same day, the Department of Defense declassified video footage of a 2004 naval encounter with a UFO over the Pacific Ocean. Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate were on a routine training mission 100 miles out into the Pacific when they were asked to investigate the object. The object had been detected appearing suddenly at 80,000 feet by the USS Princeton, a naval cruiser, which had been tracking mysterious aircraft for 2 weeks. Commander Fravor told the New York Times the object was about 40 feet long, had no plumes, wings, or rotors, and outpaced their F-18s. He said it was big enough to churn the sea 50 feet below it. Now, when asked, he said, "I have no idea what I saw. It accelerated like nothing I've ever seen." He added, admitting he was pretty weirded out by it. And I imagine he was, because, those guys know what they're looking at when they see something in the sky. Now, I have the audio footage of part of this incident. It's a little unclear. I tried to clean it up, but if you want to check the video out, I'll link it in the show notes and put it up on the website. So let's go ahead and play that clip.
Dude, there's a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS, though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like another thing, it's rotating.
All right. So you can tell by the sound of their voice that they're a little weirded out by what's happening.
Yeah, I thought the best quote from David there was that he didn't know what it was, but he sure the hell would like to fly it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you watch the video and they have it where it's like targeted in on the object, and it does at one point, it actually flips up vertically, just like it decides, okay, I'm just rotating, and it just rotates up into a vertical position. It's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
Even his description, because I was watching, I think a CNN interview, and he said it was like at a dead hover, he started to go towards it, and this thing just shot up. It was like at 12,000 feet within like a matter of seconds and was gone, which is just crazy to think. And that's what he was like, was talking about the G-forces and stuff, that the G-forces would probably kill a person.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's a crazy video. I'll put it that way.
What worries me about that video is when the guy says, there's a whole fleet of them.
Yeah. And they were tracking them for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, why didn't they send anybody out before, like during that 2 week period?
Again, you're left with more questions than you get answers.
Yeah.
And well, I'll save it to the end. What I think may be happening, or what I think a lot of conspiracy theorists may think is happening. So, as if this information from the DoD and the two former naval pilots wasn't compelling enough, I found an interview with former Pentagon military intelligence official who headed up the program to investigate UFOs, Mr. Luis Elizondo. And here's what he had to say about what the government found.
Well, we found a lot. I think it's probably been a little bit mischaracterized in some of the social media you see and what people put out, because a lot of times when we don't have a lot of information, we tend to fill in those gaps with what we think is logical. And there's still, by the way, a lot we really don't know. I think what's important is that we have identified some very, very interesting, anomalous type of aircraft. Let's call them aircraft. Things that don't have any obvious flight surfaces, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological. Hypersonic velocities, low observability, positive lift, again, seemingly in defying the laws of aerodynamics. I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
All right. I don't know about you, but that's a little scary.
It is, and I think it is more weirder to me. All right, this guy is now working with Tom DeLonge. Is it To the Stars Academy?
Yeah, To the Stars Academy, yes.
And Tom DeLonge kind of seems to think that the extraterrestrials that are visiting here are not friendly.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me wonder, because if you look at all the people that he's put together, which I give him ends. I mean, he put together a good list. You have this guy is part of his, research, along with a bunch of CIA people, some people from the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and all this other stuff. I mean, he put a bunch of scientists and CIA people together, which I think is cool. But on the other side, I think it's kind of weird that you put a bunch of CIA people and NSA people and this guy as part of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Program.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It seems just a little shady to me. And yet again, I don't know if it's just me being the skeptical person of not really trusting what the government says. It's is the government using Tom DeLonge as a pawn?
Yeah.
Are they just going to make him look like a total idiot and just kind of totally, I don't know, just try to end UFOlogy as it is to make us look more all nuts? Or is it more of a sinister thing going on?
Yeah, and I've wondered that too, because Tom DeLonge is an interesting cat. On one hand, he will say some things that I think, okay, yeah, I can kind of buy that. And then other times he's out there in Fruit Loop land and he's talking about things that, there's no way I'm buying. And so, yeah, it does make you wonder, why would government officials be talking to the lead singer of Blink-182?
I saw little bits and pieces of him on Joe Rogan, and I know Joe asked him that too, and he really didn't have an answer for that. And I was kind of like, why would they just pick you out of the blue? Like, did you know somebody? Like, I don't know. Like,
of all the people who've been studying the UFO phenomenon for all these years, why pick him? And then he went on. I know which interview you're talking about. I've actually seen that too. He went on to talk about how the aliens are traveling through space and they're stopping time by some kind of force bubble. He said that's around them and that they've developed there at his school.
I guess anything's possible. I mean, in the 1800s, did they ever think that we'd be sitting there watching movies on our phone and stuff? So, I mean, I don't know how to explain it physically, but I guess if they are an advanced race, I guess it could be possible that they figured stuff out, how to travel quickly through space, especially if they're coming here. Because from what I understand, is that we're kind of like the boondocks of our solar system. We're kind of like Alabama, just out in the middle of nowhere. So it's hard telling.
We're kind of out on the outer edges of our galaxy.
And I kind of wonder, like, okay, say they been visiting here, and it seems like it picked up around when we started testing nuclear bombs and stuff like this. And I was watching a thing where Stanton Freeman was the guest. I didn't even realize he was still alive, and he was talking about the disclosure and stuff a little bit. And he was saying that, a lot of these UFOs have been seen around nuclear test sites, nuclear facilities. Roswell was at one time, when the Roswell crash happened, I guess they were the only nuclear armed squadron in the world or the United States. I assume the world, because I don't think Russia kind of had their stuff together yet. But it's kind of weird how if they are here, they did pop up in those areas,
Yeah.
And it's like, like he put it, he's like, what are these monkeys doing, like, with their stuff? Because at first we were not a threat because we didn't have the nuclear capability, but maybe you need the nuclear capability to perform those ships can do, and maybe they're now getting kind of anxious with us, like, okay, so what are these guys going to do? Are they going to start, checking out where we're at, and are they a threat now? Which, if they are out there, I can totally see that. I mean, like, look at us with each other. I mean, we're wanting to kill each other over stupid stuff. What would stop us from wanting to take over other planets, especially if they had, like, a planet made of gold or something? Maybe they eat gold, or I don't know. Like, you could use any science fiction you want to.
And it would make sense if they were coming down to determine how big of a threat we are. But to go back to your other point, I wonder if they're doing this, and especially now, and the reason why they're releasing this information is because there is a threat, and they may not want us to know exactly how real the threat is, but they want us to be prepared.
I know, like, Dr. Stephen Greer. Have you ever seen any of his stuff?
Yeah.
I saw he tweeted out that basically when this happened, this is a false flag. And part of his disclosure, I think it's Disclosure Project is what he does.
Yeah.
And there's a thing on Netflix. It's called, I think, Unexplained or Unacknowledged or something like that. But he talks a little bit about if the aliens were a threat, they could wipe us out within nanoseconds. That they have technology that is 100 times more advanced than the hydrogen bomb. So it would be quick. Like, they would come in and just whoop, or they would just release a virus, and that would be the end of it.
Okay, if I had to think this through, what would be the point of coming in and decimating the planet? And there would be no point, because just like us, if aliens are building ways to travel through space, then they also have built their own societies. And just like us, that requires iron and steel and other materials that you're going to get from that planet. And so to come in and annihilate the planet with something like that, you're just wasting all the material. It would make more sense if they came in and wiped us out with a virus that they were immune to. And that way it doesn't affect the environment and they're still able to use what they need to use from the planet.
It is kind of a weird thought. I mean, my personal thought and belief is that the guys that do come here, if they are coming here, are scientists, just like we would send to the moon. And they're here to study us. And I mean, I don't know, like how many planets do you think possibly have come here if they are coming here, you know? Like maybe we're just, what's that, that lady that studies the apes?
Yeah.
Maybe they're like them. We're the apes. I don't know. Like, you know?
Maybe. Yeah.
It makes you think that like the abductions and stuff. I mean, if this is truly happening, how many of that is truly happening?
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to release that, hey, we knew about this and we set some thing up with the alien overlords that, they won't attack us if they can secretly abduct people or something. I don't know. Like, who knows what's going to come down the line? Or maybe this is just all a big joke. They're just going to go, this was funny,
Yeah. I mean, how many anal probes can they do?
Yeah, I've always wondered that myself. It's like, thank God our medical technology is not all anal probe based.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's how their medical technology works, and I'm glad I don't live in their little world.
All right. I want to move away from this and talk about another story that came out here recently that I think is going to affect the ancient astronaut theorist community. A scroll which gave a first-hand account on the building of the Great Pyramid was found. Now, new evidence proves that the ancient Egyptians constructed the Great Pyramid at Giza by transporting 170,000 tons of limestone in boats. It has long been known that the rock was extracted 8 miles away in Tura, and that granite used in the monumental structure was quarried 533 miles away in Aswan. However, archaeologists have disagreed over how the material was transported to Giza, now part of modern-day Cairo, for construction of Pharaoh Khufu's tomb in 2600 BC. Now that the mystery could be a step further to being solved after the discovery of an ancient scroll of papyrus, a ceremonial boat, and network of waterways, the new evidence shows that thousands of laborers transported 170,000 tons of limestone along the River Nile in wooden boats built with planks and rope. The 2.5-ton blocks were ferried through a system of specially designed canals before arriving at an inland port built just yards away from the base of the Great Pyramid. The papyrus scroll is the only first-hand record of how the pyramid was built and was written by an overseer named Merer. He explained in detail how the limestone was moved from the quarry in Tura to Giza using the Bronze Age waterways. Archaeologist Mark Lanier has also uncovered evidence of a waterway underneath the plateau the pyramid sits on. He said, "We've outlined the Central Canal Basin, which we think was the primary delivery area to the foot of the Giza Plateau." So, what kind of effect do you think this is going to have on the ancient alien theorist community?
I don't know. I always thought the whole pyramids were built by aliens were kind of BS. I mean, like, again, going back to, obviously, we're not smart enough to figure stuff out. I mean, like, man hours, I know they would, like, manpower wise, I mean, they would need tons of people.
Yeah.
Because if you think about just not the people doing the actual work on the pyramid, I mean, you need people to do, like, to feed this army, to build quarters, to work on tools, to build systems to get that there. I mean, so you need a lot of people. It wouldn't be like today where you just, hop it on a truck and go to town. But if you go up to the Rockies, I mean, there's tunnels where trains and cars go through that were literally carved out by hand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible. And to sit there and to see these tunnels, it's actually kind of cool to think, wow, this was laid by hand. I mean, the whole Transcontinental Railroad was done by hand. There's hardly any machinery in that time.
Yeah.
I guess it's possible. And I've never understood the whole, oh, aliens did this and, they lined up to like these 3 stars. Well, yeah, they could line up to these 3 stars because I'm sure they understood how to lay stuff out and architecturally. And I mean, I'm sure they could figure it out. I mean, it's not like it's hard to do. I mean, the surveyors come out and figure out how to lay out a house and how to run roads. And we actually did that before computers. So I'm like, I don't know.
Here's the thing. Astronomy has been around as long as man has looked up at the sky and said, what is this? Literally, that's how long astronomy has been here. And it's not like they didn't notice that as you went through the seasons, the sky changed. They were well aware of these things. The problem is like you said, you have this idea by some people now who think that we are at the pinnacle of human intelligence, but it simply isn't true.
No.
We are no smarter now than we were then. We just have more junk. We've been around long enough to develop more stuff, but we're no smarter. These people could do advanced mathematics. Think about, okay, if you really want to boil it down, when the ancient library in Egypt, which was where basically all the information and scientific study was stored at in the world, when it burned to the ground, it threw mankind back into the dark ages.
Isn't that crazy to think?
Yeah.
What?
And it's because they were brilliant. We're not any smarter. They figured out ways to do things using leverage, using the tools that were available to them at the time. And it frustrates me that you have people that, because they can't figure it out, just fall back to it must have been aliens.
Yeah. It ranks up there to me like the world is flat because, I think it's flat and I can't fathom how it's a curve because I can't see a curve,
Yeah, because I can't see it. It must not exist.
I will say though, with the ancient aliens, like every once in a while watching it is kind of creepy though when you see the ancient scrolls and when they do like the hieroglyphs on the walls and they show there's one I was watching not too long ago. They showed this dude that looked like he was in a spacesuit and like they had this like ship or something up in the sky. You ever like read some of the cult or the scriptures of like chariots in the sky and things like that? It's kind of like, it makes you kind of wonder a little bit. Okay, so is this at that time their science fiction? Was this for entertainment or was this actually something that historically occurred and they're doing the drawing or something for it,
Yeah, I think that's the other problem. I think the other problem is that they do not understand that man has always wanted to be entertained. And so there's always been, for lack of a better term, fluffy language that's been used to describe things, or things have been drawn. When there was no storytelling, you would tell story through art. So you would just draw a depiction of the story. And that way anyone who came along could look at the art and figure out the story. I mean, it's like if you go back and look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs, I don't believe there was a guy walking around that had a bird head. That's ridiculous. So when I look at these carvings, what I see is ceremonial headdress. I see stories that are being told. I don't see ancient astronauts. I don't see it. I may be completely wrong, but I give more credit to man.
And I wonder how many of them did it to be a smartass and threw it up there and go, wow, like 2,000 years from now, they'll discover this and this will totally just throw them off,
There's always that one jerk.
Yeah, it's creepy because some of them I've seen, like, it looks pretty close to like what our space suits look now, and it's like if you came up with that off of your head, like just off the top of your head, I mean, ends to you, bro. That's a good idea. It's like the guy that came up with the zombie. Like, how creative do you have to be just to come up with the zombie alone?
Yeah.
And even with religion, I mean, a lot of their religious gods and everything, I mean, that involves a lot of creativity. So it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I go, well, man, I kind of wonder if it, somebody did visit them back then, or was it just, hey, we're drinking a few, I don't know what they drank back then, and smoking a little smoke, and we're going to draw some weird stuff up on the wall here,
Well, we know there's been beer for at least 5,000 years and wine for longer than that. So,
and maybe it was tainted with something. Maybe it was like an LSD beer.
Yeah. I need to get the recipe. So,
I do enjoy those shows though. And I got to ask, like, all these guys that look at this alien stuff, why is their hair so messed up? You ever notice that?
You're talking about Giorgio Sokolov?
Yeah. I mean, even Stanton Freeman back in the day, I remember he had quite a, a fro going on almost too. And some of these guys, it's just like, dude, comb your hair or put on a hat, man.
I think they kind of see it as their trademark.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been great having you on to discuss this.
Thanks. I've had fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun talking to you. Where can folks go to listen to the Couch Potato Files?
You go over to couchpotatofiles.com. I'm also live on YouTube, but if you just go on couchpotatofile.com, you can watch the show. I do it Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
The idea that alien life exists on other planets is one that I undoubtedly believe. The belief that they have visited us, abducted humans, or that we have and are using alien technology is one that's a bit harder for me to swallow.
That's what she said.
So it's up to you to decide what you think is real and what is just smoke and mirrors. Thanks for joining us for this episode. Remember to go to iTunes and rate and review us this month in order to be entered into the drawing for that sweet Smoke and Mirrors t-shirt. Or leave us a comment on Spreaker, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, our YouTube channel, or on our website at smokeandmirrorspod.weebly.com. That's where you can find podcasts, videos, and great Smoke and Mirrors gear. Just search for Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal on your favorite podcast player. If it isn't there, let us know and we'll be happy to get it added for you.
Also, you can find us on Facebook at Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal. Give it a like and join the discussion group so you can let us know what you think of the show. We'll be happy to respond. Please remember to send in your stories of paranormal encounters to smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com. We would love to read those on the show. Thanks again so much for listening and subscribing. Good night.
Have a good night.